Okay, so you've experienced the Raven in some form, which
Yeah.
is good. For for Jude, if you have not, well, you got to experience it now, and you're a little bit prepared for what's coming. So, real quick, kind of as I half showed, I guess, was I wrote the word nevermore.
Oh, yes. Good at spelling.
Yes. So, as you know, if you remember from the poem, it's said a lot, right?
Yes. A lot.
A lot, a lot. So, let me just ask you, why do you think it was said so frequently?
Um, I gotta be honest, I'm not sure.
No, that's okay. You're allowed to not be sure.
Nevermore was said so much.
It's okay. We're going to talk a little bit about it.
I don't know why I was.
I have a theory.
Go ahead.
So, since the movie is about him, like, going through life and, like, dying at the end, that's what I'm assuming. So, it's pretty much like he can never more do what he used to do in the poem. Like, for every paragraph, he says something, and he can never more do it after end the paragraph, or am I totally wrong?
You're not totally wrong. So you have a good idea of where it's going. So yeah, that's okay. Yeah. So let me actually teach you a little bit about what was going on there. So it's my favorite thing in the world, which is literary devices and techniques. I know. You're in school and it's a Sunday. No, I promise. This is
And her internet is unstable.
Again.
Yes. It's okay. But yes, so this is stuff that applies not just to this poem, but everything that you guys love. Like once you start learning this, you'll see it in everything.
Okay.
So, literary devices or techniques, they're called the same thing. They're a weird magical thing. So, just so you know, the word literary means the writing, study, or content of literature, especially of the kind valued for form. So we're talking, a book. We're talking a poem. We're talking a script or a screenplay.
Okay.
So literary can mean book, poem, play, speech, short story. These are what the classic terms mean.
Okay.
But that's not the only thing it can mean. Nowadays, we can talk about movies. We can talk about video games. We can talk about these other things with the same idea. So, moving you guys over here. So, what these are is anything that's used to help the author achieve their purpose in what they're trying to tell. So, the point of the poem is to talk about, death and grieving. And you don't just say, I am dying, I am sad. That's too plain. That's too on the nose, right?
Yeah.
So you find ways to say other things. And that's what a literary technique or a literary device is. So these can be really, really complex, or they can be super simple. So an example of complex, anaphora. Yeah, ready for crazy words. That's just the repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of a sentence. So while it's not quite an anaphora, you could see nevermore as being a sort of anaphora. It's repeated over and over and over again. And then there's something easy, like point of view. You know what point of view is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the narration. Is it from one person or is it from another person? Who's talking? So yeah, that's why I said you know a lot of this already. It's just words you might not have experienced yet. So Literary devices, in general, they change depending on where they're in. So in poetry, which The Raven is a poem. So
Yeah.
in poetry, there are three particular ways that literary devices are used to give it meaning, and that's through sound, rhythm, and meaning.
Okay.
So the meaning is talking about the words themselves, like what's physically there. The rhythm and sound is how, when you're reading it out loud, how it actually comes out. So with sound, these are some popular things, and we had some of these in the poem. So alliteration. This is where you have 3 or 4 words that have the same consonant sounds. You know what a consonant is, right?
Jude, I don't think does.
Consonant is a non-vowel. So vowels are A, E, I, O, U. So it's everything else.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sebastian. Assonance is the opposite. It's the repeated vowel sounds. So O, 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 that would be assonance.
Okay.
Consonance is like alliteration where it's just the same sound. So K, K for C or K, that kind of thing. But I can tell you that we might have heard some of these already. Here's a fun one that might not be important here, but would be important in your own life. Cacophony. It's a group of harsh, unpleasant sounds. So when things get real loud and you can't really understand anything, that's a cacophony. And in poetry, they can use words to make it sound like a really annoying, loud noise, and it doesn't quite sound good. Which is why we have euphony, which is a group of pleasant sounds, making it sound really happy and songy and everything. And then our last one to talk about with sound is onomatopoeia. Have you heard onomatopoeia before? Yeah, it's a crazy word. It's just using words to make a mimic sound of an actual thing. So we have a couple examples from the Raven. So while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. So what do you think that is, looking at our examples of sound?
I'm going to bring this closer because I
Yeah,
can't.
no problem.
I'm going to say the second one.
Consonants?
Yeah.
With vowel sounds?
Are you
While
sure?
I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping.
Are you sure, Ben?
Dude, I don't know. You're not giving me anything.
Dude,
So
what do
it's
you think?
not the last 3. And it's not the second one. So, string of 3 or 4. Could be. Which one do you think it is?
The first.
Alliteration.
You're not wrong. Alliteration is there. Yes. Nodded, nearly napping. We have doubting, dreaming dreams, no mortal ever dared to dream before. It's also alliteration. We also did have some onomatopoeia with the gently rapping at my chamber door. But you were definitely right.
Sound.
There is also assonance and consonants. You were right. So it is there.
Okay.
Okay. So let's talk about rhythm. Ben, I know you are a musician, and Jude, you are starting with music, so rhythms should be something that you kind of already know.
Yeah.
So in poetry, we have repetition, which is using the same word or phrase over and over and over again. But we also have rhyme, and that one I know you know with poetry. Rhyming is the big thing. It's the, rhyming can be at the end of a sentence. It can also be in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah.
That's where it gets crazy. And then our other one is A fun term that you will learn eventually is a caesura, which is a break right in the middle. It's like, okay, period in the middle of the sentence, let's start another one. That's how a caesura works. So let's look at this opening paragraph of the poem. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." What's going on there?
The raven is tapping on the door.
Yes. What literary technique or device is being used?
Do you think it's rhyme? For repetition.
Oh.
And then, no, there's some words that are repeated in there. So definitely, yeah.
Repetition?
Yeah.
Is there rhyme?
Yes, there is.
There is a lot of rhyme there. Yes, we have some rhyme and repetition. Good job. All right. Now for the last part, and this is the big part. This is the heavy part. So we got to talk about meaning. And poems are crazy because of this first one, illusion. Not illusion like magic. We're talking allusion. Starts with an A. And what that means is it's a reference to something else. So we're talking about an allusion to, let's say we were talking about Batman. Just for hoops and giggles, we're talking about Batman, and we make a reference, an allusion to Iron Man.
Okay.
We're not talking about Iron Man, we're talking about
Right.
Batman, but we're connecting it to Iron Man. Does that make sense?
Just
Billionaire
like a
or
reference.
something like that.
So yeah, that's kind of how illusion works. It's pulling it in from something else. We also have analogy, which is why I use Batman and Iron Man. Comparison of two things that are similar to make a point. They're both rich people that don't have families, that don't have real superpowers, but make their powers. See what I did there?
Yes.
I'm pretty clever. Okay. So I know you've heard this before, and I know it's because, well, you've heard me talk about it. Metaphor.
Yes.
So this is where you're talking about something through something else. Kind of like illusion, but it's more like a play on words.
Have you ever heard of metaphor, dude?
Yeah, I've heard it before.
I've said it before. Okay.
Is it like or as? Is that simile or metaphor?
That is a simile, but
Okay.
a simile and metaphor are together. They work the same way.
Okay.
So that's perfect. The other thing is, this is a pretty obvious one. Symbol. Symbol and symbolism. Symbolism, sorry. Woo. This is where you give an object, event, person, or animal a special meaning. So it's never what it really is. It's something else.
Yeah.
And here's a fun one that you can use. Hyperbole. It's being really outrageous just to be exaggerating. No other reason. Just to say it's bigger than it is.
I could eat a horse, something like that.
Exactly. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. That is hyperbole. That's perfect. Yes. So, in the Raven, are there any symbols?
Yeah.
What's a good symbol from it?
The raven equals death, practically.
Yes, the raven is a symbol and a metaphor. So you're right. The raven symbolizes death, and it is a metaphor for the author's own dealing with death. So you're very right on point. So this is one not a whole lot of people know, so I give it away. That ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore, tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. That one is an allusion. It's to Roman mythology. I wouldn't expect you to know that. Pluto is Hades from Greek mythology, but he's Roman. He's the god of the underworld, and the raven is a symbol of death. So see how that worked?
Okay, I might have got it if he said like Hades or something.
Right. And that's why I said, with this information, now you know. Okay. So now we have some other things. And Ben, this might be familiar to you. Irony. The use of words expressing something other than their literal intention. That is irony. Yes. It's just using a different word that's not supposed to mean what it is to mean what you're saying. Okay. So we also have things like imagery, which we're not just talking, the raven is an image. We're saying, what's going on. This is where we use metaphor and simile. We have personification, where we give human characteristics to inanimate objects, ideas, or animals.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. And then we have puns, which are play on words, and oxymorons or paradoxes, where they're statements or words that aren't true, but they are true when they're put together. It's a crazy fun thing. So just take a random guess. Who's personified in this poem?
The raven.
The raven! Oh my gosh! It's almost like you knew exactly what I was going to say. Okay. So I just want you to kind of fill it out as best as you can. We're going to work through this. But in general, because we're digital, we'll talk about it after you've finished the stuff, okay?
Okay.
So real quick, just going to say, answer the questions below as best as you can. And be sure to, because you're not turning it in, you don't have to write as clearly as possible, but make sure you can read your own writing. So our first example is a song by a rapper called MC Lars. He does nerdcore rapping, which is a weird little subgenre. And so we're going to give that a little listen, and you're going to kind of just answer those questions as best you can, okay?
Okay.
We got EAP in the house tonight. Edgar Allan Poe, America's favorite anti-transcendentalist. We're taking this back, way back, 19th century style. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven. All up in my grill like nevermore. Kick it once upon a midnight dreary while I kicked it weak and weary, dark and cold just like Lake Erie. Brand new sample, someone clear me while I nodded, nearly napping. Suddenly there came a tapping up like what, this thunder clapping in my brain like graphic halfling staffing me. I put down Milton, cell phone mute like Paris Hilton, open window halfway built. Times are changing like Bob Dylan, 20-pound bird black as could be, cold feet, cold eyes aim straight at me, grim face, grim stare, death carnivore, quote that raven nevermore. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven. All up in my grill like nevermore.
Alex, okay.
I'll say, yeah, you froze. I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose anything.
Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven. All up in my grill like nevermore. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven. All up in my grill like nevermore. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven. All up in my grill like nevermore. I miss Lenore, my Annabelle Lee, taken by angels from me, along with books. Hey, that's me, harbinger of death, visiting me. Can I help you, evil prophet? If you got a problem, look, I'll solve it. He checked my hook, DJ revolved it, perched on pallet chalice dropped it. Tell me, sir, please, if you can, am I a good or evil man? What can I say? What can I do? When will I be rid of you? Nevermore, quoth he at me, hating on this fresh MC, satanic raven, Nietzsche glee, killing me softly like the Fugees. Now I feel worse, my verse is terse, joy in verse just like Fred Durst. Call a nurse, disperse my thirst, put this process in reverse. Wish I'd had some warning first. MC Lars, 88 Hearst. Now I'll never be Slug or Merce under that black raven's curse. The raven's eyes still have the seeming of a demon that is dreaming. Lamplight over him still streaming. Hear me screaming, hear me screaming. My soul still floats there on that floor and shall be lifted nevermore. Afflicted, calm like Michael Moore. Canonized piece, U.S. folklore. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven, all up in my grill like nevermore. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven, all up in my grill like nevermore. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven, all up in my grill like nevermore. Who's that? Who's that? Rapping. Who's that rapping at my chamber door? Mr. Raven, all up in my grill like nevermore. Whose house?
Okay.
That was
Very strange.
interesting.
Yes. But that is a good example of an adaptation.
Yes.
So it's not the exact same thing, but it still has parts of it. And so that's why I asked you to write down some of your thoughts. So real quick, what do we have going on with that? So let's see. First question. So did you notice any similar words or phrases? And I mean more than just the Raven.
He said nevermore a lot.
Yeah.
He also said rapping at my door, Lenore, and daydreaming.
Yeah, that's fair. Jude, did you notice anything that Ben didn't?
He did say rapping at my door a lot.
Yeah. So it's a rap song,
Yeah.
but he's also talking about rapping as in a like
Mhm.
knocking on a door. So is that an interesting choice?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, so the second question, I know it's a very different sound, but are there any similar sounds going on there?
I'm not sure. And we can no longer hear you.
That's okay, I wasn't talking. I was listening. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So let me ask the third question. Was the story still the same, even though it was a different take on it?
Yes.
Okay, good. That I was hoping that would be your answer. So now we have to ask that all-important serious question. Does it still sound creepy as the original poem kind of does?
I'm going to say not really because, well, it's a rap song.
Okay. Jude, what did you think? Did you think it was creepy or did you think it was eh? Did you think it was funny? Like, what did you think?
Yeah.
That's fair. That's a fair statement. Okay. So we have one other adaptation to share.
Yeah.
Once upon a midnight dreary.
I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
There's some visitor
I muttered,
tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more.
Are we scared yet? Bard, he's establishing mood.
distinctly I remember. It is was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore.
Oh, Lenore.
For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. The silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating,
"'Tis a visitor entreating entrance of my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more."
Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer.
"Sir,"
Said I,
or "Madam, surely your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door that I scarce was sure I heard you."
Here I opened wide the door.
This better be good.
Darkness there, and nothing more.
Huh?
You know what would have been scarier than nothing? What? Anything!
Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, something louder than before.
"Surely,"
Said I,
"surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore."
opened here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more.
"Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou,"
I said,
"but sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the nice Plutonian shore."
quoth the raven.
Eat my shorts.
Bart, stop it! He says nevermore, and that's all he'll ever say.
Okay.
Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed by some unseen scent,
"Stupid censor,
swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor.
wretch!
I cried,
Thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore."
quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
"No, be that word outside of parting! Banner fiend!
I shrieked up, starting,
Get thee back into the tempest and the nice Plutonian shore! No, leave no black plume as a token of the lie thy soul has spoken! Leave my loneliness unbroken with the bust above my door! Take thy beak from off my heart and take thy form from off my door!
quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door!
Quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Why, you little...
Oh,
Back here, you little raven! Oh, it missed! Ow!
nevermore.
And the raven, ever flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
All right. Okay. So, what's going on there?
Pretty much the whole entire poem.
Yeah. So, it's the same story, right? Nothing
Yeah.
changed?
Through the Simpsons adaptation.
Yeah. So, did you notice any changes from the poem?
Not sure. Like, there might have been one or two words that they didn't say in the poem, but it was pretty much very thorough on what the poem was saying.
Yeah. No, that's exactly true. So, about it being a cartoon,
Yeah.
Does that make the story seem less scary, or
Yeah.
more scary, or the same? What does it do?
Less scary.
Right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it less scary?
Because it's through a cartoon.
Okay. That's fair. So that third question, the colors, were the colors bright or darker in that particular segment?
I would say brighter.
Okay.
Because they had books that are colored different. I feel like they did a lot of good shading with the blues and blacks and purples in the show.
Okay. So blues and blacks and purples, those are kind of darker colors though, right?
True.
So were they bright colors or darker colors? Jude, what do you think?
I don't know. They're dark colors.
I can just say dark for now.
That's okay. You can say light colors. There were light colors in there. I'm just asking what you thought. So that fourth question is more for me than anything else, but was seeing the poem played out make it easier to understand the poem than just reading it or hearing it?
Yes.
Why?
Because it put a new perspective on the story. Like I could follow through it more than reading it.
Dude, what do you think?
Yes.
Okay. Is it from just not wanting to read it or not really caring to hear it, but seeing it does something?
I don't know really what to say, though.
That's okay. So, one at a time, I want to know, which one was your favorite? The poem, the song, the cartoon? Which one was your favorite?
Who do you want to go first?
I want to hear Jude first. Jude, what was your favorite?
The cartoon.
Why?
Because of how funny it was.
Okay. That's a very fair point. Ben, what do you think? What was your favorite?
I'm gonna say cartoon because I felt like it was funny, but it helped me the most telling the story.
Okay. Yeah. That's very good, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. So if I was actively teaching you, I would hand out a end of class kind of assignment sheet, which would be homework, but this isn't a real class, so I'm not going to give it to you. But I will tell you, I will ask you to think about it, though, just for your own good. Think about some things in your own life that you really like your favorite game or your favorite movie or your favorite show or something. Even a favorite book. I know some of you have favorite stories. But I want you to think about, is there anything similar to that in another genre? So if you have a favorite video game, is it similar to any movie or book or something like that?
Okay.
Just think about how that works. And it's interesting to know if there are connections that certain things share with each other, like illusions and imagery and irony. Who knows, right? All right. So thank you very much for doing this for me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.